you may know that Mikhail and I were able to go about 5 or 6 weeks ago to Japan. And this was a church body trip, meaning that it was only possible because of everybody in this room. Whether that was through prayer, support, encouragement, finances, it was definitely a group trip. And you guys were a part of it, and we're just here to kind of tell you a little bit about our journey and what it was that we did. So I titled this sermon, Sacrifice with a Smile. I think a lot of times when we think of sacrifice, we think of like the most extreme thing, like us having to give up like the most extreme example of something. But sacrifice is funny. So if you look at the definition of it, the word actually means to give up something of value in exchange for something of greater value. So if we look at it like that, if we're afraid to get rid of something, if we're afraid to sacrifice something to God, we're valuing that more than God's side. We're valuing temporary things more than eternal things. Getting ready to go on this trip, for example, Stephanie, who's holding a little baby right now, was super pregnant at the time. And we were, personally I had conversations with people, friends, family, coworkers. I was crazy, I was selfish, are we thinking about our family? Why would we do this, and that? And even on our first trip, we got a few of that. But we also got a lot of encouragement. But I'll tell you that I bet you Noah's neighbor thought he was pretty crazy. He was building a big old boat in the backyard. Okay, so we don't always do those same things, and I will tell you, if you wait for the perfect time to do something, you're going to be waiting until your time is up. There's no perfect time to do anything. Sometimes we have to go when we have to go. And it was a big blessing, because Mikhail and I went. We've had an amazing relationship ever since. He's been a new little man. It's helped our relationship out. We were able to get blessings with people there. Stephanie remained pregnant the entirety of the trip. When we came back, we had an awesome VBS, and then we had a baby. So everything worked out. But we appreciate all the concerns and prayers and everything. But we're going to get to the trip now, because I don't want to keep you guys here past 3. That was my goal. We're going to get up to 3 o'clock. Okay? So, to start off, this is a map of Hokkaido. Some of you may be more familiar than others, but this is Hokkaido. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you kind of have an explosion of Japan there. So we're all the way up north. We're literal miles away from Russia. It's pretty cool. The weather was amazing. We had a great time. So I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but there is a red dot right there, kind of in the middle to the left, and that's Sapporo. And on your maps, we're still doing this, on your maps, you can put a little X next to Sapporo. That's where OMF's headquarters is. Now, OMF is Overseas Missionary Fellowship, and what they want to do is pray on-site with insight. Now, what does that mean? It means going there, talking with the people, meeting them, looking them in the eyes, holding their hands, and praying for them there. Prayer works no matter where you're at. Some of you may be thinking, well, we can pray over here. It's been my experience alone. You guys may have different views on this. Prayer works no matter where we're at, but there is, I feel, a difference between praying for somebody and praying with somebody. When you surrender yourself, when you surrender your vulnerability, you hold somebody's hand, or you hold somebody by the shoulder, you bring them close, and you pray with them, it's an amazing thing. And we see, Jesus do this countless times. Yeah, there were times where he said, go, and by the time the person got there, the person speaking was healed. But there were many times where people came to him to touch his robe, to be touched by him. There's something about a personal relationship to have with somebody. I can already tell that this is going to be a completely different message than the first service. So if you're here for both, then this is going to be a little different. So I will tell you that in Japan, it's an extremely hard place to talk about Christianity, to get Christianity philosophy. The leader of OMF over there, he had told us that on average there's 5 steps for somebody to become a Christian. And the milestones are like showing up to a church. It's like actually being interested, continually showing up. 3 is like taking ownership, kind of being part of a small group. 4 is like reading the Bible on their own, and 5 is public declaration of baptism. So there's 5 steps. OMF has found in their many years there that on average it takes a Japanese person 7 years for each step. So if you do the math, that's about 35 years on average for somebody who has heard about Christ to come to a public declaration that they're going to follow Christ. That seems like a long time, but I think a lot of us might have similar testimonies where maybe whenever we were in school, or maybe we were brought up in a Christian home, and we kind of fell away, and then we we came back to it. So it's not that crazy when you think about it like that, but it does take a lot of work. And that's why they need people there, people working alongside these pastors in these churches, because it's a huge investment. But I will tell you, one person is worth that investment. And I can tell you just from being around other missionaries and hearing stories, sometimes we get the missionaries that are, man, we saw hundreds of people come to Christ, and sometimes we get the missionaries that have been there 30, 40 years, and you might have had 3 or 4. But you know what? It's definitely worth it. So we can go to the next slide. Our first stop on our adventure there, we can go to the next slide. Just 1 second, I got the finger. Okay. Okay, there we go. So this is a little harder to see. Maybe you guys in front. So on your maps, there's a place just northwest called Otaru, and that was our first stop. Okay. So we can. I see the rivers. I think we're harder. And then you can go to the next slide. We'll show you a little bit of what we did at Otaru. So this is the first church we went to. This is a typical church that we go to as missionaries that we've been to. Probably about 15 to 16 people. So one of your questions down there is. Might have to do with this. Most of the churches that we went to are smaller churches. Smaller being between 15 and 40 people, and out of those, probably half of those are regular attendants. So this is a typical church. You have your main sanctuary, and then off to the side, you have like 1 or 2 rooms for activities or for lunch. And this was actually a really cool church because this is on a hill, like overlooking the ocean there, and it was just an amazing view. But this is a good place to introduce our team. So over all the way on the left, we have a young lady there named Amy. She's from California. We have next to her, Brie from Texas. She's always wanted to go to Japan since she was 9 years old, and she finally got to go. There's Mr. Mikhail right there in his samurai blue jersey. The man next to him, that's Keith Olson. He works with OMF. He's been in Japan for 10 years. So he was one of our guides and helped us translate and get our hotels hooked up. The lady next to him in red, that's Christina. Christina's amazing. She's been in Japan for 3 years. She was originally in China with OMF, and she felt like God's calling her to Japan. She has like 3 masters, and she speaks 4 languages. It was pretty wild to talk to her, and she's really young, like really an inspiration. And then that's Matt. Some of you may know Matt. Matt works at P4 Brady's here in town, and we played on a hockey team together, so we're good friends. So we were able to go. This is our group. So this is the first church we went to. We can go to the next slide. We prayed for the interim pastor there, a woman by the name of Manami. And Manami's situation is kind of typical. In Japan, you'll notice that there might be quite a bit of churches, but the churches are pastorless. And there's many reasons for that. They experience the same things churches in the States experience with splits or just disagreements. But they also, there's a commitment level. Japan's very shame and honor culture. You'll see a lot of that in Asia. And something that we've noticed is the worst thing you can do is shame your family, shame your parents, bring shame to the family name. So what we've been told is that a lot of people, a lot of pastors are hesitant to take that next step because they don't want to let God down. They don't want to feel like they've let their congregation down. So there's a hesitancy. A lot of them will fill in, but sure, yeah, I'll do a Sunday here or there. So that's what Minami was doing. But it makes it really odd for her because some of the people in the church don't view her as the leader, and some do. So it's a really tough spot. She asked for a lot of personal prayer with all of that. But these kids, we were praying, remember we were praying with Minami, she was asking if we could pray for kids to come to the church. She's like, there's no kids that come to this church. We just need to pray that kids can come in. So literally, we're done praying. We stand up, we're saying our goodbyes, and these 2 kids walk in. They open up their little piano book and start playing the piano. Well, we just assumed that she knew who these kids were. We're like, oh, can you introduce us? No, and she's like, I don't know who these kids are. We're like, what? So I've never seen them before in my life. So, she's seen them like around the neighborhood, like messing around with their scooters and such, but like they've never come inside. And then like one more kid comes in. They just all start playing piano, and we talk with them through Keith and Christina. And yeah. They just came and started playing the piano. Never been in this church before. We walk outside, and there's like 3 more kids on pogo sticks, like hopping around the parking lot and stuff. It was just interesting. We could just pray for kids to come to this church. And this is kind of a recurring theme of this prayer journey. We would pray for something that morning, and before the day was over, we would be like, oh my gosh, like almost feeling guilty, like, man, this is actually working. Like, yeah, we should know this is working, but to see it that many times each day, it was really just encouraging. So we can go to the next slide. This is a rest stop. I was telling them first service, this is like beautiful Japan. This is right next to pretty much a 7-Eleven on the side of the road. I don't know of any 7-Eleven in the United States that looks this lush and green, but this is your typical like Hokkaido that you saw everywhere. Just beautiful green. This actually overlooked a little ravine there. And this is just one of the many reasons that we got to realize, like, this is God's country. God, the Creator God, is just an amazing experience. And that's part of why we go to these places, so we can see with our own eyes. We can go to the next slide. This is a church in a small town called Memuro. And the pastor there was one of the many pastors that we saw that actually had a vision. Traditionally, a lot of the churches in Japan kind of stick to their denomination. Even if somebody's baptized in a particular church, they feel like that's their church. So if they move 4 or 5 hours away, if that church is having a special event, a lot of times that person will go to that church for that special event. That's not uncommon from what we heard. They feel like that's kind of where they belong. So this church right here is trying something new. They're trying to connect with the neighboring churches, neighboring denominations. And they realize this is God's country. This isn't just their church's country. This isn't just their neighborhood. This is God's neighborhood. So the pastor of this church was actually connecting with the pastor of another church in Obihiro, which we'll show you in a little bit, to really game plan like their vision together. Like, we're going to reach all the way over here, and you guys are going to reach all the way over here, and maybe we could have a joint service, or maybe we can have a joint church in the middle. So it's great to see these pastors working together. And the stained glass that you see in the picture on the right, that was actually made by a congregation member. It's absolutely beautiful. So if you guys know how to make stained glass, we have use for you. So you can go to the next slide. This is a picture of Mikhail overlooking an overlook there in Memuro. And it's actually an abandoned ski resort. So now there's like cattle and stuff out there. But Mikhail was just looking out there. We were all kind of praying. We did the praying with your eyes open thing. It's a little hard for some of us, but when you pray with your eyes open, you start to notice things you didn't notice. So we were praying with our eyes open, and everybody kind of came to the same conclusion that this is a little bit of what Christ sees. This is like what Christ saw. You saw the people. You see farms, you see schools, you see churches, you see the beauty of nature, you see the birds flying around, and you realize this is bigger than me. No matter what box I put God in, He just will explode. And you really get a view for the city. And the pastor of the church in Memuro actually comes up here and prays for the city like as often as he can. He said he tries to do it almost every day. And it was just an amazing experience to be able to kind of see a little bit of what God sees. Going to this high place and looking around. We can go to the next slide, please. This is Mr. Mikhail, and he was hanging out on like what I thought was the most Japanese sidewalk ever. Little red gate there, and there's a stream in the background. This is on our way to a zoo in Obihiro. We had a free morning, so we walked about 3 or 4 miles to a zoo, and we took this picture. But this is a good time. Mikhail has something he wants to share with you guys, and it's actually pretty cool. We asked him to think about an experience that was the most, the one that stood out the most to him. And it's definitely not one we were thinking, but it's good whenever you ask a child an honest question, they come back with something as amazing as this. So why don't you give him your attention, and he'll talk to you a little bit about what his experience in Japan was like.
Our group was climbing the mountain and saw statues and I was like, what are those? And my dad said they were from the kids that died at an early age, and their parents thought they were in hell, so they gave them water and food and other things. So I felt scared. Some of them were scary, and if I lived there and I died, they could be said about me that I was in hell. And if we shared with God and tell them that kids go to heaven, they might change their mind and think they actually go to heaven. Matthew 18:30, verse 13 through 15. The little children and Jesus. The people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples rebuked them. Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. When he had placed his hand on them, he went on from there.
Okay, so he did a great job. So what he's talking about is you'd see these little statues, they call them Jesus statues, and they're everywhere. These little teeny like gray dolls, and a lot of them are for children that have passed away. And a lot of traditional Japanese believe that whenever a child passes away, it was a very bad traumatic thing. So they believe that the children, end up in hell. And these statues are very graphic. They're very crazy at times, and the parents will go and warn their children at these statues by bringing little bibs or bottles of water or toys. And it's really sad. You see these everywhere. And even though the statues are old, all the things that they lay there are brand new. So these parents are going there quite often to try to help their children. And it's really a hopeless thing. It's a really sad thing. But it makes you, when you see things like that, you see the bondage that people are tied to. You see these statues that are not living, not breathing, and they're representations of somebody's loved one. And it really stirs my heart to help share that, hey, there's hope. There is a hope in this. You don't have to talk to the statue. It's not going to talk back. We serve a living and active God. And we can pray with him wherever we're at. We can talk to him wherever we're at. There is a hope out there. And so these are some of the things, and that's one of the things he picked up on. It wasn't what I thought. I was going to say, travel is hard or whatever. He's like, no, I'm going to talk about that. So I'm glad that he was mature enough to see that and see the need, because there's a huge need out there to share. If we can go to the next slide, please. This one's really hard to see, and I wish it wasn't, but this is actually right next to the zoo. There's a huge Buddhist cemetery, and in the middle of it, there is a big white cross. And we're like, whoa, because you don't see that. You can go to Buddhist cemeteries all day long and not see that. And then if you look around, there's actually a whole bunch behind it. And it's interesting. We actually talked to the pastor over here. He said he had never been to the cemetery before. He was unfamiliar with it. But there was obviously a huge Christian population here, or there still is. And it's just interesting how even in death, somebody can be a witness, somebody can be a light, somebody can be a beacon to others. We saw that, and it really made us hopeful. It's like a symbolism for no matter how surrounded you are by something, no matter how surrounded you are by spiritual oppression, by darkness, you can stand out. You can be visible through it all. And it's just an amazing testament that we can still provide messages to people long after we're gone. The Bible is full of talks like that with Hebrews 11 about how sometimes the seeds that we plant right now, we're not going to see them get harvested. We're just going to have to trust and have faith that they go behind us. This is just an amazing testament that through all the hard years that Japan suffered, through being cut off from the rest of the world, through persecution of Christians, which was quite terrible at times, these hidden Christians have allowed this to happen. It's just an amazing thing. We can go to the next slide. I was able to share my testimony with an English group of about 16 to 17 ladies. I'll show you a picture of one of them. They're pretty funny. They're wild. Non-believers, but they appreciated the message, my testimony, and a lot of them came up to me and kind of shared similar stories. This is kind of what you do. You'll have an English lesson, most of the time it's non-believers, but you'll have a Bible study as well. No matter what service you offer, whether it's a craft, whether it's sewing, whether it's singing, there's always a Bible study. And the Japanese people are so just accepting of it. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll stay for that. So that's a lot of what you do at a church in Japan, is you work alongside the people, you offer a service that they might need or that they might desire, and then you kind of have your in there with the Bible study. They stay for it. It's amazing. To the right, we have a missionary family that we met, Simone, his wife, and their new kid, Mikhail, and their child got to play and have a great time. And Simone was funny. He's Swedish-German. He was super funny. I'll tell you stories. I don't know if I can tell from here, but I'll tell you stories later, but Simone was funny. So we'll go to the next slide. And there she is, Mikhail's Japanese grandmother. Bo had told us that Mikhail would get a Japanese grandmother, and there she is, Shishko. Mid-70s, she rides a horse every day. She was a wild one. She invited me to go to the hot springs. I was like, no, I've been before. She's like, no, you've never been with me. You should go to the hot springs with me. And I was like, well, let's slow down a little bit. So she was a funny one. Yeah, she was a funny one. She was wild. She was a pistol. And she just had story after story after story. There was a lady that we met there that worked at a woolly mammoth museum. Her and Mikhail hit it off. And, you just get to talk to the people. And so many times on the trains, on the planes, outside of stores, you'll just see blank stares. We went to a dotor, which is like a high-end coffee shop, and whenever you sit down, there's actual like tape at each seat, so you don't kind of go over into somebody else's space. You kind of respect your own space, I think. You see a lot of that. It's all about, not messing up the system, kind of working in line, not standing out. But when you get these people, these amazing Japanese people together, and you start to talk about common bonds and hobbies and what they really like, they just explode. And it's like they've been wanting to talk about this their whole life, and they'll just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. So great friends over there, great people. Love every single one of them we met. And there's Mikhail doing his devotional that he led, which was a big hit with the group. It was one of our favorite moments of the trip. He did a great job. So we can go to the next slide. This was actually really cool. We got blessed with the opportunity to go see a harp concert in Obihiro. So we went to Obihiro, if you guys see that on your map, it's kind of in the middle. Obihiro, there was a harp concert, and it was just a great time. And before the harp concert, it was a Christian harp concert. The lady traveled all the way from the UK. She was doing this traveling ministry to do this. They had a family and other kids from the youth group come and do an interpretive dance and singing. And they had kids all the way from 2 years of age to like 18 years of age doing this. So it was great. A lot of times we might think, the gospel is not really moving in other countries, maybe it's stagnant. But no, you got every young person represented there, like lifting their hands up, unashamed to worship the living God. And it was just an amazing thing we could be there. It was sold out, like 2,000 or 3,000 people were in there. It was an amazing time. So that was a real big blessing to get to be a part of that. Next slide, please. This is a typical living situation. I love it. There's actually 3 beds there. Those are little roll-out futons. I was in the middle, Mikhail was on one side, Matt was on the other. Get a little cozy there. I will tell you there was no air conditioning anywhere we went, but we didn't need it because the weather was amazing. It was like high 40s, low 50s the entire time we were there in the middle of June. And it was like the best weather you can imagine. But we're sleeping on tatami mats there. Missed that. So space is limited, so you roll up your bed during the day, you kind of put it up in your little cubby hole, and then at night you unroll it. It really teaches you how to be neat, which is a life skill that I need desperately. So this is, they got me here. They tell me the morning we're about to drive 5 hours. Okay, we're driving 5 hours. We're going to go stop at a lake, and then we're going to go to Shiretoko. And I was like, okay, cool, 5 hours. We're going to go hiking. I'm going to dress casual. I'm in shorts. Then we get outside. There's supposed to be a huge lake behind us. We're on a mountain. And it was probably like 44 degrees and like 60-mile-an-hour gusts. And I know Mikhail was kind of standing like this, and I don't think he was doing that on purpose. Like he was trying to stand up. And there I am in my shorts and my short sleeve shirt and trying to be all cool, like I'm not cold, and meanwhile I'm freezing. But I did get to see another Japanese guy who was walking around in a button-up like almost like a Charlie Sheen type shirt, and then he had like shorts on too. And gave me the old peace sign, so I was like, I'm not the only one. So we'll go to the next slide. And there, we're going up to Shiretoko now, which is up in the northeast corner. And this was just an amazing time. We can go to the next slide. This is Nori-san. This was my favorite time of the trip. Nori-san, we talked a little bit about him. He was a sage-like Japanese man that gave us that whole, from the dead into the new story. We were talking with him, and he sees a group of like 7 white people along with 2 Japanese. He's asking us, hey, where are you guys from? Why are you guys here? So we tell him. And our guide, Keith's like, yeah, we're missionaries with OMF. He's like, oh, I was like, do you guys are missionaries? Are Christian missionaries? We're like, yeah. He's like, I'm a Christian. We're like, really? Shiretoko, there's a few 100,000 people in that area, but statistically, there's probably only like 40 or 50 Christians. So not only do we meet one, but he's our guide. And this picture is actually funny, because this is him kind of doing this, and he's like, I can't believe you guys are Christian. He stopped and he thanked us. He's like, thank you for bringing the gospel to my country and my people. He said, thank you so much. We desperately need it. And then the 2 Japanese people in our group, this is him actually telling them. He's like, you see this for us? He's like, God made this for us. And he was like telling them about the gospel while we were there, which is very atypical. Like that doesn't normally happen, that they would that openly just share like that. And the whole trip was just changed after that. The whole time we were in Shiretoko, he was just telling us about how God did this and how everything from like the smallest to the biggest has a role to play. He was just putting it all in a Christian perspective. And his wife is actually in Osaka right now with her parents that are ill. So he's kind of separated from his family, not willingly, but so he asked for prayers for that. while she's down there taking care of her parents. And then his son actually works with a Korean pastor with a television station that presents Christian television programming to both countries. So he's really involved in Christianity. He's really involved in sharing the gospel. He's just a great man. He goes to a church of about 5 or 6 people about an hour away from where he lives. So he's committed. And it's a great thing to see him there. And he gave us a Christian discount. And then he asked if we could pray for him. So we got to pray with him. It was just a great thing. That we just saw God everywhere. Like literally, we would have a guy, and there he is. He's a Christian man. We can go to the next slide. So we went a little bit to the left, north or west, to Abashiri. Abashiri might be on your map. So Abashiri is famous for having a prison, which we got to briefly see. We can go to the next slide. But it also has, I'm glad close here. This is the Tokyo Agricultural University that we went to. And it was really cool. There's Amy, super happy that she found a Michigan State University plaque because that's her alma mater. And I guess they're a satellite school there, which is pretty cool. So they're telling us about how the opportunity to have big city Tokyo kids coming into this area for school and how that presents a unique ministry opportunity. And they do have a Christian ministry going on there, but it's currently at 1, and this person putting it on. So there's a huge prayer request and prayer point that we can get that growing, get that going. There's so many ministry opportunities over there, but as of right now, there's only one professing Christian that they know about, or at least is going to be on that entire college campus. There's a ton of kids. So we can go to the next slide. This is Mikhail overlooking the new prison in Abashiri. The historical one was just behind us, but we're just reminded that people come from all walks of life. We just need to keep everybody in our prayers. There's no favorites. There's no favoritism in the Bible. It's very clear about that. James talks about how there's no favoritism. When we give our prayers to some, we need to give them to all. Everybody has value. And we need to love them. We need to be there for them. We need to care for them. And it's just an amazing reminder that everybody's in this together. So we went southwest to Kitami. Kitami might be on your map. I think it is, actually. And then we can go to the next slide. So this is a church in Kitami. They do this awesome craft. I was telling them first service, I want to Google this and find out how to do this. They make these little churches. They make little churches out of wires, and it's really, really cool. I think it would be a great thing. But, non-Christians come to make these, and then they say for Bible studies. And this is just a way to get people encouraged into coming to the church and used to coming to the church. Now we go to the next slide. Now this is Kido Sensei. Kido was an amazing person. His vision was just absolutely insane. He's holding a blueprint for a new church. The current church they're staying at, they're moving because the renter won't let them put crosses up. That can happen from time to time. There's still a lot of public pressure to not be Christians in some areas. There's some persecution, not major, but there is definitely some still. A lot of it social. But over to the right, we see just an empty field. Well, we were actually going there because he was going to sneak a Bible into the foundation. He was going to dig a little hole and put the Bible underneath where the building's going to go. Because he wants the actual church to be built on the Word of God. So we were kind of there just sneaking that in. But then we get to pray over the place, and there's a school over here, there's a library over there, there's a community center over here. They strategically picked this place. They have it angled in such a way that the stained glass will have the light going in it most of the time. So, there's also, I'm getting a signal from Greg. What's up?
You don't need the mic.
Oh, I don't?
Yeah.
I like holding it.
Okay.
Sorry. Look at that. It's magic. It's magic. Mikhail said that I need to tell you that one of the ladies that was praying out there, she stepped in a sinkhole. We think it was a sinkhole. I think it was sewage, and her shoes got ruined. But that's why you open your eyes when you pray, folks. Okay? She was doing this, and all of a sudden we hear, no! But anyways, so they have it angled in such a way that the stained glass will reflect the light throughout most of the day. They also have windows from the floor to the ceiling, so that way whenever they have church service, they can draw the curtains back and people can actually see into the church. Because a lot of people have different feelings about church. Some people might feel that from the early to mid-90s, whenever they had sarin gas attacks by so-called Christians, they might think it's a cult. There's a lot of Japanese people that associate cultism with Christianity. there's just like a lot of stigma of what are they actually doing in there. So this pastor's like, we're going to have the ceilings, just pretty much from the floor to the ceiling, a window. We're going to draw back the curtains so they can actually see inside what we're doing, how we're worshiping, what we're doing. There's an entrance on the back door for people that don't want to be seen going into the church, because again, there is some, friends might be like, well, what are you doing there? You're not supposed to be there. So they have an extra entrance for people that don't want to be seen going in there. And they also have a really kind of cool thing he was thinking about. He said the hardest part about getting into the church is literally the first step, taking that first step. So he said that they are going to make the entire church the same level as outside. There's going to be no little entry area for you to take off your shoes, and they're not going to ask that people take their shoes off. If they want to, they can, but if not, they can leave them on, which is a really big deal. Might not seem like anything huge here, but over there it's a really big deal. He said he just wants to take that first step away. He wants everybody to go come in and experience God. And so his vision is just amazing. And they lost half their church. Might be asking why. Well, most of the churches in Japan are older, so literally over the past few years, half their church has died. But he said that their giving has not gone down at all. With half their members, they still have the same amount of giving that they're able to build this church. We can go to the next slide. And we go all the way back to Sapporo. So we travel about 4 hours. We make a few stops on the way. We go to the next slide. And this is kind of one of the main reasons we went. We were going upstairs on our debrief time, and we sent Mikhail downstairs, and he's playing with missionary kids. The kid in the orange, his name is Shin. He's from Hong Kong. And I could hear Mikhail playing with him from upstairs on the 3rd floor. And this was on the 1st floor. But he was having a great time with the kids. And, this was a vision trip for us as well as a prayer journey. We feel like God might be calling our family overseas, and this was the next big step. We were supposed to go as a family, but God saw fit to give us another little blessing. So Stephanie was a great mom. She stayed at home with the kids, and she let me take our oldest with us, and we just had a great time. I really feel like a lot of us struggled with this trip whenever we were doing debriefing at the end. Like, I didn't get that call. I don't feel like God is calling me to any specific place, and it was driving me nuts. Bray has been waiting her whole life to go. She finally gets to go, and she was so conflicted. Like, I just don't have that one place where I want ministry where I feel like I'm going to go. And I was like, listen, you waited 30-something years to get here. Are you okay waiting another 30 if that's what God wants? She's like, yeah. So having talked with her since then, about a month and a half, she's going back to seminary. She's getting all of her ducks in a row. She's going to leave the option open, but she's leaving it in God's hand. But she's actively taking steps towards it. So it's just a great thing. And honestly, I did not get a specific call. I thought I'm going to go to Hokkaido, I'm going to have a specific call, I'm going to know what it is that we're going to do. But I'm also easily disappointed. And I feel like if I got my hopes set on one place or one ministry and get there, and I'm like, actually, we need you more here than there. Maybe for the 3 years I'm there, I might be resentful. Maybe that might bleed over to the family life. So honestly, what I feel like, after coming away from all of this and doing my debriefing and talking with people we went on a trip with and talking with Mikhail, is I just feel at peace. I feel like we can do this. I feel like we can as a family do this. No matter how hard it might seem, I feel like we can do this. And it was just a great blessing to be there with people. Now I know that I didn't get a chance to get to this and I feel bad, but the scripture that I chose was in Philippians 2. And I'll just give you a brief rundown. Philippians 2 says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded. It goes on to say in verse 3, rather in humility value yourselves above others, not looking to your own interests, but each the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. So a lot of times we ask, what would Jesus do? Here, we have it. Verses 6 through 8. Who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something that he used to his own advantage. We should never put ourselves up on a pedestal. That's what Jesus fought the Sanhedrin for. That's what he fought the Pharisees for and the Sadducees. Never put ourselves up on a pedestal. Rather, make yourself nothing as he made himself nothing, by taking the very nature of a servant and being made in human likeness. Whenever we go over there, we're not taking the American church over to Japan. We're going to a Japanese pastor who we may have never met and been like, what can we do to serve this church and serve God here? That's what it is. We don't go there with a predetermined thing, like I'm going to go there and I'm going to take over, I'm going to do this ministry and this ministry and this ministry. I may have those wants, but we can go there and it's like, what can we do for you? That's what I'm saying, sacrifice with a smile, because there's great joy in that. In verse 8 it says, "And being found in appearance as man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross." God can bless us with everything that we have. And if he demands it of us, who are we to say, no, you can't have it back? So I just want to leave you guys with that. Sacrifice isn't always a terrible thing. Like I said, there's strategic value when you're playing chess. You pawn, you move it forward, and it gets taken. You have a greater advantage after it gets taken. If we're playing this life right, if we're doing life right, we can get rid of these things for a greater advantage. We can get rid of these lesser things for something greater. So what's something that we can sacrifice? Maybe it's our comfort. We can go talk to somebody we wouldn't normally talk to. Maybe we can sacrifice a little bit of our time by volunteering. Maybe we can sacrifice some of our own guilty pleasures that we have to actually read the Bible, or to pray for somebody, or to do a devotional. My first day there, this is the last thing I'll leave you guys with. June 10th, this is my first journal entry. Journaling's amazing too. It's not just for little girls. Journaling helps. Okay, journaling helps a lot. You write down your thoughts, your feelings, and then you go back a few days later and you're like, oh, it's crazy. That got answered. So June 10th, I'll just read this to you real quick. Travel day. Long day without a lot of food or downtime. Airplane food is terrible. Mikhail did great considering the long day. He didn't sleep at all on the plane. He does not remember much of the night, but he slept really well. Probably. Our travels took us into June 11th. Met up with Brie and Narita and arrived at guest home around 9:30 at night. Slept well considering, but thinking of Esther. Kept thinking of Esther. I walked by earlier and I hear Mark talking to him about Esther. So slept well considering, keep thinking about Esther. Choose to come alongside or not. She was torn between safety and duty. So are we torn between safety or duty? Do we feel like maybe this is owed to us, or a certain lifestyle is owed to us? Or is a greater thing waiting for us if we would just be open to see for what it is? So if you guys are interested in overseas trips, Asia, please talk to Nicole's, talk with myself, talk with Stephanie, talk with Bodie, talk with any of us who have been there, who have seen these faces, who have talked with people, who have hugged these people. I don't want to keep going by myself. I want people to go with me. Next time we go, I'd love to have people from the church, people from Riverside. Whoever wants to go, please seek me out, and we'll try to see what we can do by getting with that. So I'll close this in prayer. I know it's a long day, and we've got communion, so I'll close this in prayer, and then we'll get started with that. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can serve the same God, whether we're here or across the world, whether it's daytime here or nighttime somewhere else, Lord, that you are clearly everywhere else. You are creator of this world, Lord, that as Mikhail read with his devotional, Lord, in Acts 17, you appoint certain people at certain times and you give them different boundaries, Lord. Why do you separate us? And maybe it's to let the heart reach out more. Lord, we tend to say the same prayers over and over again and greet the same people over and over again. Lord, give us the heart to say new, bold prayers. Lord, give us the heart to say hello to new people. Lord, we ask that whatever it is that we need to sacrifice, Lord, that we do it willingly. Your word is full of sacrifice, Lord, but it's also full of great treasure that comes from it, great rewards that come from it. We might not see them now, we might not see them later, Lord, but others will be blessed by them. Like the secret Christians 300-400 years ago, Lord, in Japan, that kept the word strong there. We now see fruit. Lord, we ask that as these current missionaries get ready to retire and move on, Lord, that they cannot be discouraged, that there will be nobody to replace them, but that there can be an uprising of missionaries coming behind them to serve alongside our fellow Christians. Lord, not just the Japanese, but our fellow Christians, Lord, who just happen to be living in Japan. Lord, we thank you for giving us the gifts and talents to serve these people, and we just ask that you can amplify them, Lord. We just ask that we can give our lives to you, and then do the only thing left we can, which is hang on. Because I can tell you from personal experience, if you start giving over areas of your life to God, they move quicker than anybody can imagine. I've spent 31 years of my life wanting to go overseas and serve you, Lord, and in the past 2 years I've been overseas 5 times, which is not by my own doing. Lord, it's by this church, by your will, and we thank you and praise you that, Lord, we give ourselves to you and just enjoy the ride. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
As Jesus prepared to make his sacrifice for us, he shared a final meal with his disciples so that they would be able to keep before them the sacrifice that he was making for them and the life that he was calling them to lead. And as we come before this table, I want to remind you, you don't have to be a member of this church or of any church in order to come and receive the bread and the cup for yourself. We simply ask that you seek to leave behind a life of sin, live a life of repentant obedience to God, with Christ as your Lord and Savior. And if that is you, doesn't matter how far along you are on that journey, doesn't matter whether you are brand new or whether you've been a follower of Christ for decades. If you are walking in his way, you're welcome to come and join us. Let's take a moment now in silent prayer reflection, prepare our hearts to receive this offering. If there's anything in your heart that is unpleasing to God, any sin, any rebellion, sit with him now. Let him speak into your heart and seek his forgiveness.